Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nocturnal Gaming Network. My name is Zira, and today we are once again playing Spaceflight Simulator. So today we pick up where we left off in the last one, and we are getting ready to land on the two moons of Mars and Mars itself, and drop off geologic and seismic sensors so that we may better understand how the red planet and its satellites work. So we are going to start right in. We're going to go to the map screen. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be separating this thing. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to hit the thing to separate it, and then we're going to rotate. There we go, just like that. And the rotating here will allow us to gently push off of it without doing any damage by smashing into it and breaking things. There we go. Once we get ourselves roughly 180 degrees oriented, we will turn on our RCS thrusters. There we go. And now we can make our way towards the rear of this thing, towards the rear of the mothership, and we will begin docking. So the last time we flew this weird contraption all the way from Earth, we had a very, very large rocket launch because, this was probably the biggest, most complicated thing we have sent into space so far, at least in a single launch. So, we have to be very careful because we had a very spectacular, ginormous launch, and everything went to plan. So here we are in Mars's orbit, and that's basically what we did the last time. So now we're going to make our way to lock onto this thing. Perfect. We can detach right from here. Oop, why did you not work? Thank you. That's better. That's what I thought. Alright, so we're going to rotate ourselves around. The mothership is going to stay in orbit. We need to go back to the map. We need to set Deimos as a target. Alright, and there's the closest approach to Deimos. So, looking at that, we're going to now go through and try to make orbit with it. And we're going to go positive. We need to actually turn our thrusters on here. So there's one engine, and engine off, engine on, engine off, engine on. I feel like I turned one of them on, but not the other one. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to raise our relative apoapse until it intersects with Deimos, and then we are going to make our way around. We're going to go around a few times here in orbit, and what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to actually catch up on Deimos. It's going to take a couple times around here, and eventually we'll have a nice close encounter with it. Maybe like two more. Ooh, no, I'm wrong. One more. Alright, because if we do another time around, we're actually not going to do it. We're going to overshoot it. So we're going to flip around 180. Alright, and this is just basically going to be how I would normally go about, regularly rendezvousing. We're just going to accelerate here. We're actually getting pretty close here. So what we want to do is we want to go through and use... Oop, there was an encounter. There's the encounter. We want to basically use the thrusters, using the RCS and our main thrusters, to raise our periapsis until we encounter Deimos. Alright? And basically we want to check where exactly we're going to be encountering it. We want to make sure we're going around the correct way here. So looking at this, see how we're below or interior to Deimos's orbit line. That way, when we actually go through and check Deimos, which I can do right here, below interior to its orbit line would be down bottom. All right, so basically we're going to be going around Deimos in the correct direction, which is what we want. We just want to make sure we're going the correct way because it'll save us fuel in the long run. And we can basically just go around. I think it's going to be one more time because we're only going to be a little bit faster around the orbit than Deimos because our periaps is fairly close to matching the periaps of Deimos. So remember, when you're doing this, make sure you keep your orbit inside of Deimos's orbit, and you should, wind up with the appropriate entry and exit for Deimos, so you're on the right path around it. So we're going to slow down once we get close, because basically Deimos is a moon. It's a very small, rocky moon, and because of that, it doesn't take much to enter and exit its orbit. Notice we're only going 5.9 meters per second, well, 6 now, in relation to Deimos. So any maneuvering you're going to be doing here can basically be done with the RCS thrusters. So what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves on a collision course with Deimos. I want to land somewhere right here on the top of that point. So we're going to use the RCS thruster. Oop, wrong way. If I use the correct RCS thrusters here, we can put ourselves in an orbit around Deimos. Something like this right here. We want to stay above 1,000 meters because I believe 1,000 meters is the time warp cutoff specifically for Deimos. All right, so then we can go here, make sure we're not time warping, lower our landing gears, because if I forget those, then this mission's over. Although, maybe not. We may be going slow enough relatively that it wouldn't be a big deal. So here we go, right about there. It's 1.5 kilometers. I was wrong. So, basically what that means is we're going to need to, we're not going to be able to do too much here. Let's see if I can. Now I'm not going to be able to get my periapsis back up, am I? Can I warp? Yeah, I will. I'll be able to do this, and we can do a little tiny bit more warping, maybe. There we are. This should be good. Although, I just don't want to go through and do all this stuff here. There we are, 1.25. So we can warp, time warp a little bit more, something like right about here. And then we'll use our RCS thrusters to lower our angle down to right about there, and we're going to be coming in fairly steeply relative to the planet, which is a good thing. Now we can go through and time warp just as far as we can. That way we're not spending way too much time just sitting in orbit. Don't want to take too long to do this. Now, the height off the terrain is actually going to be from the lowest point, right? From basically, I think what it would be is sea level on a planet. So if we look, we're actually, fairly close to the planet already, even though it says we're 1.3 kilometers away. So we do want to be careful of that. If you know about it, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to actually deal with. You just need to know about it so you can avoid smashing into the planet, because you were expecting to have to start braking at, I don't know, at about 100 kilometers. Well, 100 kilometers here, you'll be inside the planet, so we can't do that. Now, it is relatively slow because the gravity on Deimos is quite low, so we are going to be taking our time here. I mean, not like there's too much else we can do. We're just sort of stuck, floating in space here. We are coming close, though. We're almost done. So we can start preemptively rotating ourselves. I'm actually going to move my orbit out ever so slightly to like this point right here, which is probably going to be the highest relative point on Deimos. So right about where the arrow is on the right side of the screen right now should be about where we're going to be landing. Or where I want to land us. We can probably start slowing our descent here. Something like this. Alright, we want to get ready here. Get ready for touchdown. There we go. I want to go just a little bit back to the left, just so I can land right here. Now, it's probably going to take just a little bit to actually get used to this, because you just float so much. Like, it's weird that you're floating this much. It's like nothing's actually affecting you. So, we want to put it down, like, literally right here. So I'm just going to move back this way. I'm going to puff my thrusters ever so slightly. And we have touchdown. We have landed on Deimos' surface. I believe we've stopped moving. That's the other thing, is if you have any sideways momentum, you will be continuing to move. And then we'll just release this. And the sensor will slowly float downwards. And there we are. We are ready. We're done. We've landed, we've seen the sights, and we've left. So what we want to do is find where we are relative to Mars in its orbit. All right, and we want to basically be leaving out the back of Deimos's orbit here. So that means we want to go up. We're going to go up, and we're going to go to the left in this case, to make our trajectory head out the back of Deimos' orbit relative to Deimos. Alright, so this is easy. This is probably the easiest takeoff you will ever do. Just switch back to the map, pulse your engines a couple times, pulse it sideways, up and then sideways. Bam. See how we've got the nice trajectory already? Bam. Alright, so here we are. Point ourselves in the right direction, and we're just going to go to like 40% thrust and just like, boom, here we go. So what that's done is it's gone out the back. Now we're trying to rendezvous with the mothership, and we're just going to go down to like 9%. And we want to be very slightly outside of this thing's orbit. So that's 29, wait, which one is that? That's this one. So it's 2,996 by 3018. So something like this, right? 3022, that's probably pretty good. All right, and bam, we have left Deimos. We are past the 1.5 kilometer mark relative to Deimos. We can just actually time accelerate here, and we will leave Deimos at, whenever, at the appropriate time for us. We're almost there. I suppose that I should probably just keep it slow. That way I don't, miss out on anything here. almost, we're just about, there we go. We've left Deimos' sphere of influence. What we want to do is go down to our periaps now. Where we're slower than Deimos, it should be speeding away. There we are. We're not going to get a second encounter with it just by very slowly, flying around there. And I actually think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around one more time here, and that should give us at least a little bit of an approach with this thing, because it should be catching up to us. We'll go around one more time. And actually, that's going to put the mothership very close to us, huh? Do I want to risk one more? We're going to do one more final one. And I think that's going to put it ever so slightly ahead of us. Yes, it does. Okay, so now what we need to do is catch up with the mothership. The way we're going to do this is we're going to rotate ourselves retrograde. We're going to lower our apoapsis. I can turn off my RCS thrusters for now because we don't need them. And we're just going to lower our apoapsis and actually our periapsis. We can lower both. There's 298, perfect. 2988, so that's just slightly inside the periaps. Oop, 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 stop. Hit the wrong button. It's okay though. Alright, so now we want to lower our apoaps. Stop. That was way too much. I don't know why I'm hitting the wrong button here. I feel like it's the phone's fault. But because of that, now we need to go back prograde. And we need to burn just a slight bit. Ooh, look at that. Where did that go? I don't know where that went. We should be actually fairly close to having an encounter with it. Yeah, there it is. What's the encounter? 11 kilometers? That's actually pretty good. So we're going to go around right now, just like that. That should allow us to catch up to this thing. So while we're here at apoaps, what we'll do is we will find... Where is it? Find the encounter, and we'll see if we can influence that. I don't even know where it went. I have no idea where that went. But I don't see it anywhere, so my guess is we're actually very close to an encounter. So we'll just go around. Here we are. So we are going to be pretty damn close. Alright, so once we get... Oh, there's the closest point. Now, can we see the mothership yet? No, we cannot. Alright. What we're going to do is we're going to use our main thrusters to try and catch up to it. So we'll point very slightly ahead of it, and we'll boost. And we're going to see what happens relatively here. We want to make sure that we're catching up to it, which it looks like we are, but we're crossing the orbit, so we're going to go and point radial in, boost a little more. Uh-oh. Alright, good. We're actually doing about right, so we're going to go to like 45%, and we're going to boost a little more this way. Alright, so we're going a little faster than it relatively, so we'll point very slightly retrograde and boost for a couple seconds. There we are. See how close we're getting now? I bet we can see it now. There it is. Alright, so this is a very successful encounter in my opinion. Oop, I'm still accelerating through time. There we go. So we'll point at it once again. Where'd it go? Where did it go? There it is. Alright, we can boost a couple seconds. There we go. So we are going to get very close to it this time. Now, I think we're probably matching its speed close enough we can use our RCS thrusters to finish the encounter here. Maybe not, but oop, it's jumping. All right, there we are. We just want to keep an eye on it, make sure we're continuously heading towards it. And there we are. Very nice, very successful encounter. We can just wait a couple more seconds and we will dock with it. Something like this right here. We can do it. I have faith. I believe. We're actually coming in really nice here this time. When I was practicing this mission, it may or may not have gone this smoothly the previous time. But that's okay. There's still time for an orbital rendezvous to go wrong because we have one more of them to do. There we go. Boom. Now, what we're going to do here, we're going to turn those engines off and make sure these big engines are on. So, off, off. All right. Now, we want to check which direction we're pointing here. And we are pointing retrograde. Okay? What we want to do, what we need to do here, is we're going to lower our periapsis until it's closer to Mars here. So we're actually going to lower it. We're going to try and get ourselves in a nice orbit around 50 kilometers away from Mars. And the reason for that is because we want to have the mothership in place for actually landing on Mars. All right, we're going to use the smaller lander to do most of our maneuvering because it's much more efficient relatively than the mothership. So we'll go to 50 kilometers or thereabouts. So right about there. Perfect. I can't believe I got it. Perfect. And then we want to rotate ourselves retrograde for where we will be when we're at the periapsis. So right about there, that's pretty good. And then we can accelerate through some time again. Remember, as you head towards Mars, you're going to pick up speed. You're actually going to pick up speed quite drastically. There we go. Because we were only going like 80, now we're going 900 or something like that. So we pick up quite a bit of speed. All right, we're ready. And we'll check ourselves just so we don't accidentally, boost in the wrong direction here. There we are. And we can lower our apoapsis here. And we want to try and keep our periapsis as close to 50 as possible. So something like this. 49.8 is pretty good. I think I'm actually going to go around and make sure I am perfectly circular on this one. Just because we have a lot, we're going to have a lot harder of a time when we're doing this from Phobos. But I think we should be okay. So as you should have seen, what happens as our apoapsis lowers is it gives us the transfer area, and that way we can very accurately use our lander to get an encounter with Phobos. So it's going to be a lot quicker for the encounter, and it's going to be, basically easier to get the encounter and to make our way to the planet. 50.7. We'll go around one more time. So right about there, and we can turn perfectly retrograde, lower our throttle relatively. Bam, there's 50 by 50. Okay. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the main fuel tank, and we are going to refuel all of the tanks on the lander. because we've probably got enough fuel to make it to Phobos and back, just as we were with the, I don't know, roughly 60% fuel we had. But I just don't want to chance it. So what we'll do is we'll break away, grab our RCS thrusters. Oh, we didn't actually break away. There we go. There we are. And we will move ourselves away from the main ship. What we need to do is find our way to the transfer zone. Oh dear. I bumped it. Go. You can do it. I have faith. There we go. This time it's not dragging us back. Alright. Turn our RCS thrusters off. I think this time we should be good. Yeah, so we're going to rotate ourselves relatively to the correct prograde we need when we're going to be boosting towards Phobos. So that's somewhere right about here. Make sure we're not going to smack into the mothership. No, we're not. And we can accelerate time, and we should be perfectly fine, perfectly far enough away from the mothership not to cause any problems with it. We can check. Yeah, see, it's not... Oh, it is in view. It's actually way over there. But that's okay. We're going to be going prograde here, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. We should be far enough away from it that it's not going to cause any trouble. And we can wait until we're actually inside the transfer area. So right about there. It's not going to take that much fuel to actually get ourselves... I forgot to turn my engines back on. Not going to take that much fuel to get to Phobos or back from Phobos or whatnot. So we can just boost. There it is. This should be a nice, easy encounter for us. It's just going to take a second. Well, a couple seconds here. Like 15, 20 seconds. But that's alright. We're going to use approximately a quarter of our fuel to actually make this encounter. We should need about a quarter of it to get back. And then we should... We're going to need probably like an eighth or at most like a quarter of our fuel to actually do the landing and take off from Phobos. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's nice and easy to do. So here we are. Slow ourselves down. Get ready for the encounter. We're going to want to pass... I never set it as a target, did I? There we go. Well, that's embarrassing. So we're going to need a little more fuel because we're going to have to do it this way, where we go way outside of the orbit and come back around. I hate it when I do something like that, when I forget to set it as, there we go, as the target. But that's okay. It's okay. It's not going to cause any problem whatsoever. So we come back in. Ooh, we're going to be hitting it the wrong way, aren't we? Let's see, where are we coming in from? We're coming in from there. So no, we're not. We're going to be going the correct way. Let's see if we can lower our periapsis just a little bit more. Just like 5 kilometers. Something like that right there. 5.1. So 4.8. There we are. That's our encounter with Phobos. Now we just need to wait here, and we will eventually make our way into Phobos. There we are. See how we're slowing down? Now we're gaining some speed as we head back in. All right, there we go. And we make the encounter right now. Bam. All right, so because I was poor at planning here, we're actually entering Phobos with more speed than we should be. relative to the planet itself, or not planet, but moon itself. So we're going to go to our periaps, and we're going to have to burn and actually lower our relative speed. There we go. And this is more thrust than we should have used here. But whatever. We're almost done. Once we hit, like, I think it's like 10-ish meters per second, that's when we're going to actually wrap around and enter Phobos' sphere of influence. I said sphere. Sphere. There we go. So now I can rotate myself radial out. I actually want to try and land right here on this point. Right there, somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this. Something like that. It's okay. We're going 14 meters per second, so I'm going to do that. That will get me really roughly in the correct area I need to be. I should rotate myself first, though, so I'm oriented correctly. I want to try and find a nice flat landing spot, which is going to be a lot harder on this one because there's nothing about this massive rock that's flat. So here we are. Once we get to, I believe it's 2.5 kilometers for Phobos, it's going to tell us we can't warp anymore. So very soon, right about now. Oh, or not. Maybe it's 2 kilometers. I should probably, there we go. Should probably slow myself down. And, ooh, look at that. Perfect. So now we just need to slowly make our way towards the moon here. Now this is the same as Deimos, where the height off the moon is not accurately represented because the moon is so irregular in shape here. I believe the height off the moon is probably like towards the right side of it, right above the off button. Something like that. Alright, now we can prepare for landing. Ever so gingerly touch ourselves down here. Just like this. Boop. Alright, and what we can do, I know both of our legs are not landed yet, but we're gonna drop the payload. It's going to very, very slowly float down to the surface, and it's touched down. So, similar thing, we're going to go to the map, we're going to zoom out, we're going to see where we need to leave the orbit to be, in the correct orientation. So it's going to be really roughly in the right quadrant of the moon. So we can do the same thing. We're going to use our RCS thrusters to gingerly lift off from the moon. Oh no, stop. Am I still recording? I am still recording. Okay, good. There we go. And then once we have made liftoff, we can turn our RCS off. We can orient ourselves properly. Boom. And we can boost. So something like this right here. I'm going to turn a little more. There we go. That's perfect. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set the mothership as the target, and we're going to lower our periapsis here. We are also going to keep an eye on Phobos to make sure that we aren't going to smash into it or anything, because that would not be good. Yeah, we're good. Because we want to work our way facing retrograde relative to Mars. That way we can be actually lowering our periapsis by the biggest amount rather than, sort of adding rotation into our orbit here. We don't want to do that. We just want to lower our periapsis. Alright, so something like this, we're going to get really close. 52 kilometers because we're at 49.9 by 49.8. So if I actually go down to like 51 even, that's close enough. That means that when I go through and actually I should rotate myself around again. Something like this. Retrograde, perfect. There we go. That means that I can be very close to the orbit of this thing. So we're going to do the same thing where we're going to try and lower our apoapsis, and by lowering our apoapsis, end up with a nice and easy encounter with the mothership here. Ooh, where is that? Where's that approach? That's not quite where we want it. So we'll go around again. That's actually fairly close, but I think if we go around one more time, we can get even closer. 50 kilometers. Alright, so let's keep ourselves boosting ever so slightly here, and we're going to see how that works. No, 7,000 is our closest approach there. That's still not quite enough. Maybe this time around. $36, $34, $31, $29, $25, $20, $19. Ooh, we might get into the single digits here, the low single digits. 5, 2, 4, 4, 5, 3, oh dear, 2. Ooh, 1,000 kilometers. There we go. Here is our, ooh, 209 meters. That is exactly what we want. So we're going to go around again. It's so much easier when you're coming from a much higher orbit than the lower orbiting, target, because just that way it's like you've got so much more control of how you actually, line these things up and get them to go, get them to interact with each other. So we're going to boost until, or not boost, but time warp till we hit our really, really close encounter with it. We should be able to see it. There it is. Alright, so now we can turn our thrust on and we can just lower our apoaps the rest of the way, please. Thank you. And we have to be careful how we're rotating here because we're actually lowering our periaps also. We'll have to correct that, but that's okay. We are very, very close to the other rocket here, so we can just sort of keep an eye on that this way. Alright, now where is it? It's right there. Alright, so now it's heading towards us again. We can go here, rotate radial out, and try to intercept it till it's coming back towards us. And I can see it. It's just a little teeny tiny dot right there. Alright, good. Now we can rotate radial out again, so we'll be ahead of it. I'm actually going to turn my RCS thruster on now. Something like this. Then we'll time warp a little bit. Alright, so it's going to pass us by, but that's alright. Now we can rotate this way. Each time we do this, it gets a little bit closer, and that's what we want. Alright, so that looks like it's heading pretty close towards us. See it right there? See how much closer we are than we were? So we'll rotate around again. All right. Very close to us this time. Now we can probably use RCS to make the final encounter with this thing. Something like this. Let's check our periaps and apoaps. Our apoaps is 56 and our periaps is 49. So I mean, we're pretty damn close to actually having a nice, perfect orbit with this thing. All right. We are literally right there. There we are. Another very successful rendezvous. At least, in my opinion, it is. Some people may think it was a little much, but whatever. We're going to go through and we're going to refill our tanks again because the landing on Mars is going to require basically all of our fuel. Bam. Or maybe not all of our fuel, but full fuel in the two different stages, both the lander and the ascent module. All right. So here we are. This is the final the final test here. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate. Please separate. Thank you. All right, and I'm going to just move myself out of the way of this thing. And I am going to save this because landing on Mars sucks. The atmosphere is very thin, so you know, if you mess up at all, you're basically going to crash or you're going to run out of fuel or whatnot. So I'm going to take the risk that the craft's not going to work right. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to hope that nothing goes wrong and I have to recreate something. So we're going to call this not Mears. How about Mars landing? Bam. There we are. Now we're ready to do the landing. So the way we want to do this is we want to make sure we're clear of the mothership. Going to rotate ourselves retrograde. And we are going to lower our periapsis into the atmosphere of Mars. We can actually unselect our target here. Maybe, if I can hit it. Oh, that wasn't our target. Of course it was our target. What is the target? I don't understand what it thinks our target is. But whatever, that's fine. I don't care. We're going to lower our periapsis till we're at about 15 kilometers off the surface. All right, so there it is. This is going to be our landing zone. I'm actually thinking it's going to be like right up here somewhere, but that's okay. Now we can time warp, and basically the atmosphere starts around 20 kilometers. We want to, once we hit 20 kilometers, we want to slow ourselves down. We're at 22, that's probably good. What we're going to do is we're going to preemptively rotate ourselves retrograde, and we're going to use the base of this module here to start braking us. Now, like I said, the atmosphere on Mars is fairly, how do I want to say this? Not thick, fairly thin. And because of that, it's not going to give us that much of a nice break. So we'll get some from some braking from the atmosphere, we're going to get some braking from the thrusters, and then we're going to get more braking from the parachutes. That's why I've included 4 of them on the craft. That way we can break down to about 250 meters per second, get ourselves within parachute range, and then we can use the parachutes to actually slow us down enough to land. Now, we may end up going around twice here. I don't think we will. I think we're going to be good. We're going to be able to go through once and just, you know, at that point go through once and just break ourselves to the point where we can't escape the atmosphere. I don't know what it thinks my target is right now, but I don't think I have a target, which is weird. But whatever, I'm fine. I don't really care. So we're at 17. See how it's not really slowing us down any? Once we hit 15 kilometers, it will rotate us to the correct orientation on the planet. And, you know, once we get into the lower atmosphere, it will slow us down. Once we get to about 15, I'm going to start using my thrusters to actually go through and slow us down even faster. And if everything goes to plan, I should actually also turn my RCS on. If everything goes to plan, we're actually going to have enough fuel left over in the landing stage to use it as a first stage for our ascent craft. But we'll see how that goes. So we're almost at 15 kilometers. This is maybe not the most exciting part of the video. Maybe on this one I'll look into, you know, keeping the commentary while somehow speeding up the video. I don't know how that's going to work since I do live commentary on these things, but maybe there's a way that I can do this so we don't have to sit here and wait for an hour while I slow the ship down. Alright, 15, once we hit 14.9, there it is, now it's rotated us. Alright, so basically we should be slowing down even more now. Pretty soon we're going to hit periaps, and once we hit periaps, that's when I'm going to start using my thrusters. We have a little bit further to go, so. Alright. 14.4. We're getting closer. Maybe I should let this go around one more time and aerobrake me. Because, I mean, if it aerobrakes, even though it's a little slower to do it that way in this case, it is better because it saves me on fuel. I just don't want to, you know, aerobrake too much or something and all of a sudden I'm smashing into the planet, and that wouldn't be good. I don't want to reload the save. I will if I absolutely have to, but, you know. I think I am. I'm going to let it go around one more time here. That way I can sort of save some fuel here, make this a nice and easy mission. Alright. We're actually going to be close because we are down at 14.6 and we're still losing height on our periaps. We just need to keep ourselves pointed in the right direction. 30.2. We may actually not make it out of the atmosphere again. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make it out of the atmosphere again. Oh, I'm wrong. Yes, we will. We just rotated. We can do it, though. 15.2. You know, I'm going to accelerate, and I'm going to go around again right now. And that way, when I get back to 20 kilometers, I can just slow myself down, rotate myself by the 180 degrees. There we go. And let the atmosphere do its thing. Because we're at 742, so we have successfully burned off over 50 meters per second that last time, and this time it's going to be much more. This time we are not going to make it out of the atmosphere again, especially since our periapsis is lower to 14.3. I mean, you know, there's just no way we're going to make it around again. Now, I know this is a little slow, but this really is the easiest way to do this. I mean, if you want to do it and you don't want to worry about fuel and you want to just relax and let the atmosphere do its thing. I'm still recording. Good. I just wanted to make sure. 747. So 14.2. Okay. So let's see where we think we're going to land. I think we're going to land like somewhere right over here. Still, I think it's still about where we're going to end up. And like with the other two that we landed on, we actually have to be careful because the height off the terrain is not 100% accurate here. And if we strictly rely on that, we won't. We're actually going to hit. So the parachutes, even though they're there, they're not going to be fully effective because we never make it to 100 meters. Usually, when I've done this test landing, I've always been above 100 meters, so they've never fully deployed, and they're acting more like drogue chutes to help slow us down rather than bring us to a nice, safe landing. But that's okay. Like I said, we're going to use the thrusters for the most part to actually do the landing here. So we're at 227.6 kilometers, and we're at 13.8 here. So once we get down to like 14 kilometers, that's when we're actually going to see it slowing us down the most. That's when I'm going to want to go through and activate the thrusters to kill my sideways momentum. Because one of the biggest things here is you're going to have more sideways momentum than you need. And if you don't kill the sideways momentum, that's going to be the big issue with you landing, not necessarily the vertical. All right. But we're almost done. We just have a little bit more to go. Sorry, this part is sort of slow and tedious. I mean, I suppose I could blow something up and make it a little more entertaining, but that wouldn't be good either. So here we go. Final descent time. Because we're just about inside the atmosphere here. There we are. Now we're upright. Am I following this? I should probably follow this thing now since I'm actually on the final descent. I should go to my map and zoom in on this part of the ship so that I have access to the parachutes when we get there, when it's that time. All right. Once our height hits 10 kilometers, that's when we're going to go through and turn the thrusters on. And maybe we should do it a little earlier. That's when I did it in the test runs, and it worked. So, maybe it's probably acceptable. It's probably a decent enough amount of time. Well, let's go with 11 to be safe. So once our height off the surface hits 11 kilometers, that's when we're going to go and use our thrusters to start lowering our speed here. We should now be in, our apoapsis is now in the atmosphere. There's no escape for us this time. So we are on final descent. Make sure that we're still, the correct point of the spaceship is still in focus here. So we're at 13.5. We have 10 kilometers for our periaps. Good, 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 good. We're still at 750 meters per second, which is sort of odd to me how that works. All right. But at the same point, it's really not that hard to take off from Mars. So, whatever. 13.1. So we're almost there. And we should have a trajectory into the planet very soon, because our periaps is almost lower than this mountain range. All right, so 12. You know what? For extra safety, I'm going to start boosting when I hit 12.5 kilometers. Just because 12.7, 12.6, and 12.5. There we are. Engines on. We're lowering our speed. Remember here, our goal is to have our speed lower than 250 meters per second before we get to 2.5 kilometers. That way we can open the drogue chutes and we can actually begin to use them to slow ourselves down. So we're doing pretty good here. We're at 600 rather, not 500. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just ignore me. Watch the video. The video will show you what to do, whereas I may not exactly describe it properly. I stumble over my words sometimes. Alright, we're at about 2/3 of our fuel, so we just want to keep an eye on that. Because we don't want to run out of fuel. We want to be able to use this as a secondary landing takeoff stage here. We want to use the lander. And also what that'll do is it'll clear the seismic / geologic sensor here. Alright. So we're at 350 meters per second. 7 kilometers. So we're actually working pretty good towards being in parachute range. Once we hit 250 meters per second, we're going to get ready. We're going to switch over and we're going to make sure that we keep ourselves oriented correctly here. Ooh. See how that switched? Alright, so we can turn our thrusters off for right now. There we go. Use the chutes to slow us down. And then what we're going to need to do is get ready right at the last second here to use our engines to just slow our final descent here. We're actually doing pretty good this time. Oh, look at that. I'm very surprised. I've managed to hit a specific point on Mars where we're at a negative height. I don't think I've ever done that before. Where am I? Huh. It must be because of like those mountain ranges there. Anyway, since I have hit a negative height off of Mars, my parachutes have actually opened all the way for once. And, and what that has done is allowed me to slow down even more and very, very gently float. And it looks like I'm going to land basically on top of that little mountain right below me, or maybe not mountain, let's call it a hill. That's actually pretty good. I wasn't expecting that. That's going to give us more fuel than we would have had normally. And it's going to allow us to actually, have more fuel for our trip back home. But it's also going to make it so we have to wait a little bit longer, which I suppose is fine in the grand scheme of things. So if you can do this, if you can aim for like, 90 degrees from this really high mountain on Mars, then you'll be able to use the parachutes to the full extent of their ability rather than using them just as drogue chutes. And you will also be able to slow yourself down using the parachute instead of using, just the drogue chute and then thrusters. Like I said, in my practice runs, I didn't manage to find a spot that had a negative height on it. So, yeah, this is the first time this has happened. Look how peaceful this thing is, just slowly floating down there. Here comes the ground, though. I think I'm still going to just give it a little puff right at the end to try and lower my speed that much more. I don't know, 6 meters per second probably won't destroy anything, but I just don't want to risk it, right? Because I mean, we have gone all the way from Mars, from Earth to 2 of Mars's moons, and then to Mars itself, and then we, are going to manage to land properly. So yeah, we just want to be careful. Just want to make sure nothing bad is going to happen to us. .5. I just keep zooming in here to keep the ground in focus and give me an idea of how far left I have to go. Bam. We have landed on Mars's surface. And with that, we are going to end the episode right here. And the next time when we return, we are going to lift off from Mars. We are going to rendezvous with our mothership right here, which I'm actually going to set as a target. I still don't know what it's like stuck on, thinking that it's a target right there. But it's something. I don't know what it is. And then we're going to head back home to Earth afterwards. So thank you all so much for watching. My name's Zira, and this is the Nocturnal Gaming Network, bringing you Spaceflight Simulator. Have yourselves a wonderful night, everybody.